Today is the first time I'm actually going to talk about Doctor Who and the Doctor Who Countdown to the Anniversary. Doctor Who premiered on the 23rd of November in 1963. My dad was born on the 4th anniversary of Doctor Who, so he was obviously born to be a Whovian. My dad's favorite Doctor was Tom Baker. Couldn't blame him. Tom Baker was the favorite of many. It's kind of like up in the air of who my favorite Doctor is. I mean, I like them all for like different qualities. I actually have watched the classic Who. Actually, Tom Baker was my first Doctor. John Pertwee was my dad's first Doctor. But my dad, of course, total Whovian, he put on Doctor Who quite a few times. When we saw that classic Who was on Netflix, my dad was like really happy. It was before we actually even started watching the new Doctor Who. I mean, we have lived in this house since 2005, I think, and of course that's when the new Doctor Who series started, but we didn't know about it until a little while later. And I was not interested in Doctor Who. I didn't even know what it was. I'm like, that is the weirdest name for a show. My dad said it was British, and I was like, okay. The first time I watched Doctor Who, I actually wasn't really watching it. I was just there in like the area. One vague memory of a certain scene was, I think it was Romana. I think she was the companion. I'm not quite sure. There was something going on, and then there was that little robot dog, you know, K9. At the time I was like, what's with the robot dog? I had no idea what was going on, and I just so happened to look up, and the doctor's there talking with this guy, and they're just like kind of getting along, like, oh yeah, this guy, you know, like, what about this thing? You know, like, they're just talking, and there's some tragic thing that's going on, and the companion goes, Doctor, this such a thing is happening, this such a thing is happening, and you're just here blabbing away, blah 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 blah. And he says, I've been in near-death experiences so many times. This is much more fun. Anyway, none of us really knew what was going on, and my dad had to explain it to us because we weren't really into watching anything British. And I think it was a couple years later, not really a couple, let's see, I think I was about 16 years old when we actually fully started watching Doctor Who. I know I've been a fan for a few years now, and we saw it was on Netflix, and my dad said that this coworker of his likes Doctor Who, and so he was really into it, and he said, oh, it's good. And we thought there was some, like, they did something really wrong to the series or something like that, so that's why we didn't watch it. And then my dad says, we're gonna watch Doctor Who. And I said, okay. He says, it's new, it's updated, come on, you're gonna like it. I have a feeling you're gonna like it. Because he knew I was kind of into, like, sci-fi type stuff. Like Star Trek or Star Wars. So he put it on. Of course, it was the first episode, Rose, and I just sat there next to him, and he says, no iPod, no phone, you're gonna watch this. I'm like, okay. So we start watching it, and I convinced myself that this was gonna be boring, this was gonna be lame. It was like, come on, really? And then, like, it showed Rose and everything that was going on. Like, okay, what does that have to do with the Doctor? Where's the Doctor? Isn't he supposed to be in this? And Dad's like, wait. So we sit there watching, and all of a sudden of course it's Christopher Eccleston. It was interesting. It was like with the plastic people, you know, and it's like, okay, this is, I mean, you know, first episodes aren't always the best episodes, you know, they're not always like, everybody's like, oh yeah, that's so cool, but it's like, it explains it, and I'm like, okay, I sort of get it now, alright. We watched the next one, and that one was, of course, better than the first. There's more action to it. There's more aliens to it, and it was kind of cool. And we keep watching, and like we watched like the first 3 episodes. I think it was the first 3 when we really started getting into it, and we breezed through the first season. It was really cool, like how we all like got together. Hey, Doctor Who, and we all get together and we all watch, and it was like it brought us closer as a family to watch things together because we all have different tastes. We watched, and then we watched, and then the Doctor dances, and or in the one before, you know, the gas mask zombies. Are you my mummy? That episode creeped my mom and I out. We watched it without Dad. We were getting really into it, so we ended up watching it without Dad, and we hated it. It scared us half to death. We just hated it, and I didn't really like Jack. I didn't. I mean, I kind of found him annoying, and it just, I don't know what it was about him. I just didn't really like him, and there are certain times I like him. I like him when he's with the 10th Doctor, because there's more banter back and forth, but it's still, I still don't really care much for Jack. Jack's okay at certain points, but other than that, I didn't like him, and I still don't really like him. We reached the end of the first season. My dad was like, no, I don't want him to go. No. And I'm like, I think we're going to like the next Doctor, Dad. I think you're going to like him. And he's like, oh, no. The Christmas Invasion. The 10th Doctor won my dad's heart in that one. It was when he was like, I don't really know who I am, what kind of man I am, and all that. You know, we love to quote the Christmas Invasion because we cracked up. We loved it. It was great. And that was when we really started watching Doctor Who a lot more, and we breezed right through that season. We cried when Rose went. It was great, and that's how we became total Whovians, by watching these. And I started watching the more classic Who because now I understood who the Doctor was, and or is, who the Doctor is, and I watched the very first episode of Doctor Who, the one that premiered on November 23rd, 1963. I'm not a big fan of the first Doctor, but he's the one that started it all, and of course we know that he was trying to be all old and wise and all that type of stuff. William Hartnell was very good. I think, I know I'm not the only one, but I think Matt Smith looks a lot like a young version of William Hartnell. So that was kind of funny. I will talk more about Doctor Who tomorrow, and so I shall go. So, goodbye.